Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be taking a look at the 2024 presidential election and a specific scenario in which what if the anti-Trump Republicans, people on the right often call them neocons or rhinos, would break big for Kamala Harris on election day, rejecting Trump's populism, basically the establishment people of the Republican Party. But before we get started with the map, make sure you guys are subscribed, click the bell so you don't miss out on my content, press the like button, share this video. Don't forget, if you're interested, we have memberships. You can find the links to that in the description section. So let's start off with the likely states for Kamala Harris. Right off the bat, Minnesota is going to be likely for Tim Walz. The governor here is on her ticket. He's the VP. I think that alone on itself really, could impact Minnesota in favor of the vice president. Now, Biden won this state by a little over 7 points. I think at this point, it'll go to Kamala Harris by around 5 percentage points, enough for a likely margin. Minneapolis would, push towards the left, especially the suburbs, as well as the women vote. I actually think Kamala can improve on Biden's margin with women voters. So, therefore, I just think the impact of Tim Walz, I don't want to overrate it, but still, I think that can do a lot of damage to Donald Trump in the state of Minnesota. I also think New Hampshire is likely for Kamala Harris in this scenario. It has a lot of college-educated voters, and Tim Walz, focused heavily on education when he was governor. So therefore, I do think that can correlate to a lot of New Hampshire voters. That group really pans out well for Democrats, and New Hampshire is looking better than any other swing state in terms of the polling data that we're seeing for Kamala Harris. The polls suggest that New Hampshire is going to vote to the left of Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin. So if that's the case, then I think it could be likely for Kamala Harris. And then you have the state of Colorado. I actually think this should be safe. Solid blue for the vice president. She would win it by over 10 percentage points. That is my margin for solid ratings, over 10 points. I do think she will be able to get double digits. Colorado in general is just trending blue, so I don't think it's going to be close at all. Joe Biden won this state by 13 points in 2020, so I think it should be a fairly easy win for the vice president. And then you have the lean states for both of these candidates, starting off with Donald Trump. I think Texas is going to be lean in this scenario, no matter if the anti-Trump Republicans break big for Kamala on election day or they don't. I still think Trump should be able to win. Texas, this should not be a surprise to anybody. Democrats for the longest have been hoping they could flip Texas blue, whether on the Senate or the general election level, doesn't really matter. In 2018, Beto O'Rourke came within just, a couple percentage points of actually defeating Ted Cruz. So it was very close. And then 2020, a more favorable year for Democrats. They hoped they could flip or make Texas competitive on the presidential election. That did not happen. Trump won it by 5.5 percentage points. So this time in 2024, I don't think it's going to be the year Texas flips blue on the Senate or the general election. None of those. I think maybe 2030 or around there. Yes, you could probably be talking about that. And then as for Florida, I think this state is going to be lean for Donald Trump in this specific scenario. Now, if this is a regular prediction, then I have it actually likely for Donald Trump. But I think if the anti-Trump Republicans really break big for Kamala Harris, basically party over, candidate, or country over party, basically rejecting Trumpism, I do think that people on the right would call them neocons, by the way. Maybe Florida could be decided within 5 percentage points or so. Therefore, it would be lean. And then you have the lean states for Kamala Harris. In this scenario, I don't think there will be any, so let's skip straight forward to the tilt states for both of these candidates, starting off with the vice president. I think in this scenario, she's going to win Nevada by tilt margin. I mean, even if Trump flips Washoe County, it may or may not be enough. I just think that Clark County, the Vegas area, is a Democratic stronghold county. Democrats literally rely on that one county all the time in the state of Nevada. That's the only reason their pathway forward is to win Nevada is through Clark County among Hispanic voters. As of right now, it's not looking good for Kamala Harris with the early vote. But I think if the case is that a lot of the anti-Trump Republicans break big for Kamala, then you could see a blue Nevada in this election. And keep in mind, this state actually overestimates Republican support, which is the polar opposite on any other swing state. Because if you take a look at the majority of swing states, it actually overestimates Democrat support. But Nevada is that one odd state that actually overestimates Republicans. For example, in 2020, Trump was actually up against Joe Biden at certain times. And then in 2022, someone like Adam Laxalt was supposed to win the Senate. He actually lost to Catherine Cortez Masto. So yet again, that overestimate Republican support. And as of right now, Trump's lead in the state is very narrow on RCP by just like what 0.4%. I think considering that historically this state does overestimate Republicans time and time again, Nevada, I think I won't be shocked if Kamala does end up taking the state's 6 electoral votes. I also think that the three most important states of them all, the Rust Belts, the Blue Wall states, that always vote in unison, they never really break or split apart. I think if one candidate were to win Wisconsin, then the rest would follow in that direction. They never typically break away from each other. Therefore, I can see Wisconsin going to Harris. At the same time, Michigan, obviously, it was the bluest Rust Belt state of the three in the last election. It voted to the left of both Pennsylvania and Wisconsin by a very wide margin, by nearly 3 percentage points. And Pennsylvania would also follow, as well, as we call it, the tipping point states. Whoever wins Pennsylvania basically has the election in the bag, surpassing 270 electoral votes. But I do think that Tim Walz could maybe help Kamala a bit. I don't really want to overestimate the VP position, because I truly don't believe the VP pick doesn't, if I don't think it really affects anything other than Minnesota, because obviously it's, Tim Walz's own home state. So yes, there will be an, impact in there. But with the exception of Josh Shapiro, like if she picked Josh Shapiro, I do think that would be an unusual time in which the VP pick actually does change things, because I would actually have Pennsylvania going lean Democrat in my official final prediction if she ended up picking Josh Shapiro, because he's just that great of a candidate. And I also don't want to overestimate his support as well. So I think those three blue wall states would go to Kamala Harris at the end of the day. And then you have Arizona. Now, Arizona is very important. It's basically what this video is all about. Because if you don't know, Arizona is the #1 state with the most anti-Trump Republicans. And also, I believe, most registered independents, other than with the exception of the state of Maine as well. And there's a lot of neocons, a lot of establishments in the state of Arizona. And a lot of them broke for Biden in 2020 because he was seen as more of a moderate candidate. And keep in mind, those are the McCain, the Mitt Romney type of voters on the Republican Party. A lot of them voted for Mitt Romney in 2012, McCain in 2008. And some of them partially voted for Trump in 2016 because Hillary Clinton was just too, an establishment Democrat. Wasn't going to pan out well. But a lot of them went for Biden. And Trump was seen as more of an extremist candidate. And this time around in 2024, I don't really think Kamala, is portrayed as a moderate candidate. She's just not moderate at all. Maybe somewhat progressive, but at that, I don't think that can correlate with the, neocons of the Republican Party. But, in a scenario, I do think maybe she is able to crack the state of Arizona, considering that it does have probably the most neocons, in my opinion, out of any other state. So if the anti-Trump Republicans break big for Kamala Harris, basically country over party, country over candidate, in their mind, this is not my opinion, but in their mind, basically putting democracy first, or whatever you want to call it, then I could see Arizona blue. Also, in the, futuristic wise, this state is, in terms of, trends and demographics, it is supposed to get bluer over the years, as it has. In 2022, they elected a Democratic governor for the first time since 2009, Katie Hobbs, who you can argue was a bad candidate because she didn't even campaign at all, and she still winded up winning. That goes to show you the state is truly trending towards the left. Also, they have a Democratic senator who won re-election 3 times in a row. So don't be surprised if Arizona keeps electing Democrats in the future. And then you have Georgia. I do think that no matter what, the state's going to be extremely close. But at the end of the day, even in this scenario, more favorable for Kamala Harris, I still don't think she's going to win Georgia, just because this state, it just does not have the enthusiasm for Kamala Harris as it did for Biden in 2020. Obviously, you had BLM on his side. You had the COVID. All those things went against Donald Trump. And you're not seeing any of those factors I just mentioned save Kamala Harris this time around. And keep in mind, no Democrat has flipped Georgia since Bill Clinton and Biden did in 2020. That was extremely rare. That goes to show you how rare of a flip Georgia went blue for. And I don't see the same for Kamala Harris, even in her, I would say, almost best case scenario. I would not call this a best case. So I think it would go to Trump by probably under a percentage point. She needs, high enthusiasm in Atlanta metropolitan area. That's probably not going to happen in the suburbs. She needs skyrocket turnout. And according to the early vote, that's just not the case this time around. So unfortunately, for Kamala Harris, she's not going to win Georgia, even if the anti-Trump Republicans break big for her. Maybe there's a lot of people in Georgia, just like Arizona, who, favor more establishment type of, candidates rather than the populism that Trump brings to the Republican Party. And we go back to Arizona. A lot of those neocons just don't like the populism that Trump brings to the table. And then we move on to North Carolina. I also don't see Kamala pulling off the victory. And a more favorable year for Democrats. Joe Biden still fell short in this state. When you had both Arizona and Georgia flip to Biden, North Carolina rejected that. They did the exact opposite, and it stayed red for Donald Trump by like 1.5 percentage points. So in a less favorable year for Kamala Harris, I just don't see her pulling off the victory in North Carolina. And even Obama, who was extremely popular, only pulled it off in one election, not two. So I don't see Kamala doing it at all this time around. So 287 electoral votes for the Vice President Kamala Harris to Donald Trump's 251, getting defeated once again, basically sending him off to retirement. So there you guys go. This is the exact electoral map if the anti-Trump Republicans were to break big for Kamala Harris on Election Day. Basically, the neocons, the establishment, the rhinos, were to basically put country over party and vote for Kamala Harris to, for democracy to prevail. Me saying these things are not my opinion. This is just what's going on in their minds, if that makes sense. So one last final reminder to subscribe, click the bell so you don't miss all my content, press the like button, share this video. Don't forget we do have memberships. If you are interested, you can find links to that in the description section. That's pretty much it. Thank you everyone for watching.